As you may already know, not all movement practices are designed equally. In the LIT yoga method, we help you retrain your brain and body to move better for everyday life. Through physical therapy drills, yoga, functional mobility, core stability, and flexibility, the LIT method rewires habitual movement patterns and postural imbalances to help you feel stronger, more energized, and more balanced both on and off the mat. Our online platform, the LIT Daily, is designed for easy convenience with a robust offering of class types so you can boost your energy while getting stress relief. Yes! Improved brain wiring means you will move with more ease and efficiency because we teach you the how and why behind movement choices, not just poses for the sake of poses. All movement teachers on the platform are certified by LIT and share a common language, providing education with clear cues that give you the needed reinforcement for enhancing your movement habits. Thousands of students in over 60 countries get LIT to feel more confident, more powerful, and more alive. We offer 2 subscription options for all levels and bodies. The LIT Daily option includes library of 500 plus classes with so many categories, including short on time, injury prevention, stress relief, and body parts. Tuesdays and Thursdays, we offer live classes streamed on LIT Daily. There's a class of the day to help you take the guesswork out of what class to do, and monthly workshops are 50% off. Then the LIT Studio option has everything I just mentioned in the daily option, plus 20 weekly live Zoom classes with LIT teachers providing real-time feedback. There are monthly workshops that are free for these studio members. You can stream all of this right to your TV Air device through Android, iPhone, and iPad apps. Movement changes everything. When we move better, we feel better. So sign up for our free 1-week trial and see how getting LIT can help you feel your best today and for years to come. I'm Laura Hyman, and welcome to Redefining Movement, a LIT podcast designed to investigate all aspects of movement from my background in physical therapy and neuroscience. My mission is to help everyone find freedom through smarter movement patterns and compassion for ourselves and others, so together we can live our most uplifted lives, benefiting all beings. Welcome to Wednesday Q&A, where you all ask the questions and we answer. I am joined with my fearless co-host who loves to answer these questions with me because we just smile at each other, and we have so much to say, and these are, again, our opinions, our experience, but we're so happy to be here with you. Thank you, KB.
You're welcome, Laura.
Kristen Williams.
Let's hit the ground running.
Yeah, let's do. Okay, so this first one, this was from a gentleman from Instagram who did not want me to include his name. Can you discuss the importance of listening to your body and finding the balance between pushing yourself and practicing self-care in movement? Which I think is great question, and probably something that's on a lot of people's thoughts. You want to?
Yeah, no, I think this is really common, especially for people like you and I who just love to move. The kind of walking that fine line between overdoing and underdoing. Exercise can be addictive. I've seen this my entire life, knowing a lot of people who do too much. We see it in the physical therapy world. People get overuse injuries because they do too much. And so then you see people who don't do enough. And it's a really hard balance to find. And what I find, his question is, how do you know? I guess the question is, how do you know if you're doing enough, or how do you know if you're doing too much? If you're doing too much, it's usually when you get injured. That's your body's way of saying, hey, something needs to change. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you need to stop. Let's look at how we're moving and how we can move better. So one way of knowing that you're doing too much is pain. Another way would be, just fatigue. I think the body starts to wear down. My mom always called this burning the candle at both ends. Because it doesn't have to be with just movement practice. It can be with what you're doing in your life. I was classic doing this with when I was in school, with studying, working, having a social life, trying to exercise, doing it all, that finally my body would just, you get sick. You can literally become sick, ill, because your immune system starts to fail when we do too much. I think when it comes to an overuse or a pain, the best thing to do is to make sure that you're moving in a multitude of ways. So cross training, if you run every day, there's a chance you're going to get hurt. So don't run every day. We need days of rest. Make sure you fit in a rest day. Or if you really are not someone who rests well, then move slower, do a more of a restorative type of a class, do some breath work, some meditation, or a moving meditation where things slow down. We need to watch that we aren't overextending the body. And as someone who, this is my job, I really have to watch it because I'm getting paid to move, and it's my tendency, I'm a workhorse. My tendency is I'm just going to work. Somebody wants to do private. Yep, I'm going to do it. My husband says, you want to go for a walk? Yep, I'm going to do it. Oh, my daughter says, you want to go to the gym? Yep, I'm going to do it because I love to move. And then there's sometimes I have to say, no, I know what I've done. And it isn't even that my body's telling me no, it's my brain knows that I need to do less, or I need to use blocks this time when I practice, or maybe I'm not going to do the chaturanga. I'm not going to lower. I'm going to just stay in plank. So, really watching how the decisions we're making, and usually it's trial and error. So know that he's probably asking this question because he's gotten hurt. That would be I would say it's someone who's gotten hurt is asking this question, or someone who really doesn't move much and wants to start, but is afraid of getting hurt. So, let's reframe how we look at pain. Don't fear getting hurt. That's going to keep you from moving. Start moving. Listen to how you feel. Don't worry about soreness. Soreness is good. Usually when someone says, wow, Kristen, I was really sore after your class, I'm like, yay, that means you're gaining, so soreness is good. Pain is not. So, really starting to let this information that our body's giving us be our guide. Try to get moving every day, but try to move in a multitude of ways. So across training, and then allow yourself time for rest. Laura, what else do you have to add to that?
I love everything you said, and I'll just kind of add the behavioral and emotional aspect of it, which would be, using the word push it's a very societal thing, like push on, and it has a place. And if we think of ourselves as like organisms of energy, if you know yourself well and you need a push because you aren't moving or you need to get started, you can think of it as a nudge, like here's a reminder, here's a push to get going. If you're somebody that's doing a lot and you're just pushing yourself, like to Kristen's point, like addicted to this, like, I got to push myself. It's like, start to kind of wrap what that might be about. Like, do you have is there something punitive in there? Like that you believe that you're not a good person or making goals or achieving if you don't like just work until you feel depleted. There are people, we know them. And so it's the first thing is it's an invitation, I think, to really understand self-care. I think more than anything is going inward and understanding yourself. So KB, she said she needs to say no to things more often, and I'm really good at that. So sometimes I do, believe it or not, need to like push myself a little bit, like out of my just tendency to want to kind of insulate or I do a lot of stuff where I'm reading and then I'm not moving as much, believe it or not. Like I have a lot of built-in movement and then some days I don't. So, but I know that about myself and I know like, okay, I need to like go on that walk even though I don't feel like it, and so I don't like think of that as much as like pushing as a punitive. It's reminding myself that where my tendencies are and just trying to always find an ecosystem that's more balanced. So that to me is self-care, is like really balancing out your own ecosystem. And that might mean, dulling or dimming muting the noises of outside. If you're at a gym and there's a lot of like, rah, rah, you got to do that. And to make gains, then you might need, and that stresses you out. Like some people love that. They need that. That encourages them. So it's really, I think more than anything, like asking yourself, what is it that you need? Is push for you something that feels like punitive, or is it what you need because you're like, trying to get into movement? Movement is something that we need to do. We are made to move, and when we're not moving, it's really easy to be stagnant and inert. And sometimes that's where you need a little, it's like a push is like to start that, you know, energy moving. So that would be my advice.
I love that.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Our second question here was sent in via email. This person wants to be anonymous. She asks, as a lit instructor, we have many options to give people for cues in poses. I have a lady when doing abdominals, she puffs her belly up when she lifts up, creating, she says to me, a lot of intra-abdominal pressure. I give all the cues like engage the diamond, draw the lower ribs down, but nothing seems to help. What can you suggest, as I'm assuming she's putting a lot of pressure down into her pelvic floor as well? Thank you. You want to start with that one?
Sure. Well, she may not be feeling anything, like no pressure in the pelvic floor, but in general, it's like a less optimal strategy, period. Whether there's so that's what I look at, like, and that's part of our PT is like try not make assumptions. So I'm not going to assume that doing anything. It's just not, when that translates into other moves, it's not going to be an optimal strategy because she's going to not have, not like a lot of breath capacity. And probably it'll translate into some like less optimal or dysfunctional movement strategies as well. They kind of all go along because she's not optimizing that core integrity to stabilize her spine and pelvis against the movement of the torso, right? So instead, she's pushing that out. And yes, it's creating intra-abdominal pressure, but there's kind of a low bar. Like intra-abdominal pressure works well when you have a lot of weight and you need to stabilize. She's got her back on the ground, her feet on the ground, most likely. If they're not on the ground, that would be my first thing. To have somebody like that put their feet on the ground, because then you're taking a lot of the demand off. She's got so much support. There's no reason her choice should be increased intra-abdominal pressure at that point. And so it might be backing it off and changing the approach. Like, and if you're in a group, if it's private, it's really easy to do this. But say there's 4 or 5 people and she just really wants to go along with what everybody else is doing, I would change it for everyone because everyone can benefit from this. I do this, I'm sure KB does it sometimes, is I just eliminate the head and I just practice the feeling of everything pulling in, hugging into the spine. And then moving a leg, picking up a foot and picking up a foot, and just using my hands on my ribs and feeling. And it's really nice. I can feel the activation of the abdominals in different ways, stabilizing against the movement of the limbs, because that's what we want. Stabilizing does not mean not moving. It means dynamically stabilizing against other things moving bigger. So if she's pushing her breath out, she's not even getting that aspect. There's not a dynamic stabilization. She's actually trying to get stability, maybe, of that increased pressure that you would get when you have a heavy load and you really don't want things moving. Here, we just want the feeling. So I would just take her head out of it, empty the breath completely, maybe adding the cue of pushing out the breath through your mouth. So it really can help that total empty and connection to the abdominals, and then start to move a limb, then start to move another limb, and then maybe start to lift the head a little bit, and see if that changes. And when it starts to change, if she goes back into old patterns, just take the load of the head off. Because something about that lifting up, it might reckon back to 20 years ago. She was at the gym doing lots of these big curl ups. I try and not use the word curl up when I teach core, specifically for that, because it can be a reminder of many years past how you curled up and you did it with this like force that isn't about control. Those would be my tips.
Yeah, no, that's great. And, when we are curling up, we're flexing the spine. And so, of our 4 abdominal layers, the rectus abdominis, the six pack, the one right on top, it's going to contract to lift you up. And so, a lot of times, that's kind of what we see with that dome is that the rectus abdominis is doing all the work. And is that bad? No. I mean, it's bad in that we aren't using the entire core container. It's suboptimal. Bad's a bad word.
Yeah, it's like it's not the best strategy, but
it's the best strategy. Yeah. So I think a lot of people, Laura, I know you see this, and I especially see it in the clinic, they're just really disconnected to those under layers. Because we've got that rectus, that's our big mover. We don't have to think about firing that. It's going to do it to move our shoulders and head up. We have to think about engaging the obliques and especially the transversus abdominis to help pull down, which is really what we want by way of that increased abdominal pressure when we're up off the ground and moving around. When, like Laura said, when you're against a heavy load, you want that increased abdominal pressure to support your spine. So we train the body to do it in an abdominal. So you might, Laura, I love all your suggestions, leaving the head down, using the breath. I like to, take it back to a cue that's antiquated in that you don't want people to suck in, but, flattening the back to the floor. We work in lit to try to keep a neutral spine, but in the learning process early on, this is someone who clearly needs it broken down. We want maybe some manual cues. So if you're in person with her, stick your hand under her back and say, can you flatten without using your glutes, without lifting your hips? Sometimes even putting the legs up on a chair and then having them flatten. They can't use the legs now. They can't push into the floor. So it teaches them how to pull that down. And so we start there just without any lifting. And so they get to, oh, that's what she means. She just might not understand what exactly you want her to do because there is no connection there, especially if you said especially if she's had children and maybe she's, really lost that connection through being pregnant. We have to retrain a lot of people postnatally how to engage that transversus abdominis, the obliques, to help pull that webbing together. It's just totally out the window. The brain has forgotten. So once you start with, more, again, not optimal. We don't want people to flatten their back all the time, but as you're learning, that's a good way to do it. Yeah. And then try that up against a wall. Try it in side lying. Side lying is a great way because when we lie on our side, a lot of times our belly wants to kind of sloop out. Then if we pull it in, we can see that change and we're not moving. So getting someone on their side, look at your stomach and now pull it in without using your breath. Don't suck in. Just try to pull it in, like Laura said, even with an exhale. So that's like that. Then okay, now try it while you're exhaling, and then bring her onto her back. See if she can do it then, and then start her up and see if she can do it. Yeah, so it's kind of layering it on in a less challenging way, just to get that brain map. And it might take a long time for you to get her to actually be able to lift up and pull down. Because don't forget, those rectus abdominis, that six pack is going to work, but we want everything in front for our lit abs and just, I think abs in general, getting everything to work together has more bang for your buck in function and out in the real world.
Yeah, I totally agree. And the one last thing I just thought of that I did with somebody a while ago is putting like a block under the scapula. And I did this actually in my classes on Lit Daily. And so you're already getting them up there, and then you just practice straightening one leg, but you've got them propped a little bit. The other alternative to that is like have them grab the thighs and hold, and then start to eccentrically start to lower, and you can kind of watch what's happening. So I think the entry point is somehow, whether it's a disconnect, like Kristen was saying, or this just like a hardened wiring that you have. So you just have to go in some other side doors and, yeah, just try some other techniques to get those deeper connections happening. I want to tell you about one of my favorite things in the world, the Lit teacher training. Creating this comprehensive teacher training really felt like my life's work compilation, and I hold nothing back. My mission is for everyone to know and understand the whole body, functional movement, and the how and why behind the movement choices we make to feel empowered, transforming your own lives and sharing that knowledge with others. Go to lityogatraining.com, and I can't wait for you to join our community. This last question is from our dear Sarah Kingsley. She's also a PT. She said, I'm curious of your thoughts on stem cell and or PRP therapy. I have a patient a year and a half out of ACL surgery. He had an awful PT prior to seeing me, pushed him far into pain. And when I started seeing him a bit over a year post-op, he could barely walk. He was an athlete. We just made huge gains in 12 weeks, seeing him once a week or every other week functionally in strength, but he's still having pain when pushing into ranges that should be normal. Recent MD diagnosis of patellofemoral pain syndrome, patellar tendinosis, and weakness. Let's see. He's seeking stem cell therapy as an option to aid in his healing and looking for a good opinion if the money is worth it. I don't know, but I trust your wisdom. Well, you want to comment a little bit first, and then
I have had at least one client who has done the stem cell where and we were living in New Jersey and he had to go to Florida to get this done, where they took stem cells out, he came back home, they grew basically like new cartilage for him in a petri, and then he came down and they injected. I can't remember if they actually patched. I feel like it was lower, like less invasive than that. It was very expensive. His results were tremendous. This is a guy who, I think was kind of staring a possible like knee replacement,
wow.
and he even had some ACL tearing and things like that, and it was pretty dramatic how well he did afterwards. But again, this is an expensive, not covered by insurance thing, so it is not going to be for everybody. When it comes to PRP, this guy had tried PRP, no success. I personally have not seen with my patients much success with PRP, but my case study is very small. I haven't seen it work well with stability. The whole thing that when it first came out was like, oh, we're going to put this, PRP, it's like plasma rich proteins that they're going to put, and it's going to cause, production of collagen, and it's going to help stabilize. That too is expensive. I've seen far fewer good results with PRP. Personally, I'm sure there are many success stories out there. And again, I don't have a huge population that I've, seen, but it's not something that I would recommend for someone to go try first thing out of the gate. To me, it becomes kind of last resort. And it's like, when people say, should I do it? I always say, well, you could try, and
Yeah.
so far those people I've said, well, you can try, they've come back to me and they've been like, well, it helped for 2 weeks, or it didn't help at all. So that's my experience with it.
Yeah, I've also had very few. And
truly, the people that I've worked with that have had it, their outcome was pretty good, but they were doing it early. They weren't doing it at this stage. This guy is like a year out, because I think, and there is mixed research on it. And I think anytime you have mixed research, you have to think like, well, how bad are you? Right? So the people that I've worked with, when they had significant pain in their knee, but had not had surgery or anything, and were doing it as this measure to prevent further decline and help out. And this, it's meant to promote some healing of damaged tissue, and again, that these are a small population of people, and I think you can find that across the board. I did look up really quickly, ACL reconstruction, and it was very mixed. It said it helps some, it doesn't help some. But I think the bigger thing is when you're doing it. I think when you're doing it in the already healing process after surgery, I imagine that would be your best chance of some of that regenerative healing to help. At this stage, I don't know. But on the other hand, if he's in pain and he's an athlete, I think the something like this, the worst thing is you spend money and you don't have a change, but at least you don't have more damage, right? Something like this is not going to damage you. It just is either going to work and be in your favor, or it just is nothing. And the other thing I will say, and again, I'm just speaking on very limited experience, but the other person that had this for lateral epicondylitis, tennis elbow, which also research-wise, I remember when she was asking me about it, she had already had it. And she's like, oh, do you see a lot of people? And I was like, no. And so I remember looking it up, and it was also very mixed reviews. But she said she felt better. So how much of it is possible placebo, right? If you're spending all the money on this thing and there's so much I think we don't know that is difficult to study because it's not objective. It's not like you now move from 0 to 90 and you only move from 0 to 45, like objectively improving. Subjective is really, really hard. So I guess the answer is, if you are not going to, really damage the bank, it could be worth investigating. And I would go to somebody who has done this a lot and look for some results, like talk to some other clients. And I feel like you have the right to do something like that, because this is out of pocket. And anytime you're paying something out of pocket, for the most part, I think you have the right to ask to talk to other people. It's like buying something or buying a service. If somebody's going to house sit at my house, I want to know other people that have done that, right? They're going to be in my property. And so we have a right to know that. So it'd be similar. I'd say investigate it. I think it's just too unknown right now. There's just not a lot of research yet on it, and not enough people, because it is limiting. But there is substantial enough that there is some efficacy. So I think it's worth trying, if you have the funds and you're at that point where it's like, this is really bothering you, because it could improve things. There's a long answer, I think.
Yeah. Well, good luck. Good luck to him.
Good luck. Anyway, all kinds of cool questions today, as always. Write us with any questions. You can send them on social media, Laura.Hyman or Lit Method or KB Williams 99.
Yep. Or you can send us an email at support@lityoga.com. We will file those away and hopefully get to them. Nothing's off the table. So you can check out our 7-day free trial going on at all times. So, where we give you a lot of answers on there, just our classes, we offer the education. So check it out.
Yeah, we'd love to see you there. And as always,
we're pulling for you.
Thank you for joining us on this episode of Redefining Movement. If you like what you've heard, please like and subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Feel free to leave us a rating and review or share with someone you know. Check us out at www.litmethod.com.